The echoes of war still lingered in the air, casting a heavy shadow over this land. However, in the great Luo Heaven domain, the momentum had already been established. With a sweeping force, it surged forward like a mighty tiger descending the mountain, unstoppable. In contrast, the Hundred Battles domain had suffered a dramatic collapse due to the defeat of Qin Tiangang and Qin Ling. Their morale had plummeted, their battle will faded, and they had crumbled into disarray. It was clear, this war had already reached its conclusion. Mu Chun and Nine Nether stood in midair, having refrained from further action. They entrusted the task of finishing up to the other forces, while they themselves led the Nine Nether's guard to take control of Thunder Demon Mountain. This was their prize. As for the occupation of Nine Nether Palace, no other factions opposed it. Everyone understood that Nine Nether Palace had set its sights on Thunder Demon's sect from the beginning. It was clear that Nine Nether Palace had contributed the most to this victory. Those with power naturally take the biggest rewards, a principle well known throughout the Tian Luo continent. After seizing Thunder Demon Mountain, Nine Nether led Mu Chun, Tang Bing, Tang Rou, and others directly toward the most important place, the Spirit Treasure Vault. Typically, a sect's collections were stored in one place, with the most vital resource, the supreme spiritual liquid, being no exception. Outside the vault, as expected, a spirit array stood guard. But such an array couldn't stop Nine Nether. With a wave of her delicate hand, the bronze doors of the vault shattered into pieces. Boom! As the doors broke apart, a torrent of pure and vast spiritual energy flooded out, spreading like a raging flood. The air itself became thick and heavy. Nine Nether stepped in first, followed closely by Mu Chun. Inside the vault, they saw the spiritual liquid flowing in crystalline streams, coiling and twisting like giant serpents. The pure energy pulses radiated from them. These streams were all formed from the supreme spiritual liquid. Usually, a sect would not carry supreme spiritual liquid around with a Qian Kuan bracelet, but would instead store it in a special spirit array to preserve its purity. This was why Mu Chun and his group didn't worry about Thunder Demon Sect's supreme spiritual liquid being swept away. Furthermore, at the start of the war, Qin Tiangang had never anticipated they would lose. As a result, the preparations they should have made were left incomplete. It seems most of the supreme spiritual liquid is intact, Mu Chun remarked with a smile. Even though Thunder Demon Sect might have taken some for precaution, they had clearly left the majority behind. Beside him, Tang Bing, whose usual aloof face had turned bright red upon entering the vault, gazed at the flowing supreme spiritual liquid with wide, captivated eyes. Seeing her like this, Nine Nether smiled and patted her shoulder. Xiaobinger, take stock. From now on, we won't need to live so tightly anymore. This was the first time Mu Chun had seen the typically indifferent Tang Bing look so greedy. Unable to resist, he teased, other forces have contributed as well. Why not share a bit with them? No way. Tang Bing shot him a fierce look with her bright eyes. We've been scraping by with barely enough in Nine Nether Palace. How could we spare any for them? If you want to share, you might as well give them me instead. Mu Chun couldn't help but burst into laughter, finding this side of Tang Bing incredibly endearing. Tang Bing, realizing she'd been teased, blushed even more, her beautiful eyes glaring at Mu Chun in playful annoyance. If you dare bully Xiaobinger, be careful your Nine Nether's guard might rebel, she threatened. Nine Nether shot Mu Chun a playful look and then wrapped her delicate arm around Tang Bing's slender waist, grinning. Don't worry. Even if we gave them some, he wouldn't dare part with you. Nine Nether Jia. Tang Bing's face turned even redder from the teasing. Mu Chun let out a dry laugh, quickly changing the subject and turning his attention to the Spirit Treasure Vault. After a moment, he walked deeper inside, stopping at the corner. His gaze fixed on a stone platform where several crystalline jade boxes lay. Inside them were scrolls emitting faint thunderous light. Mu Chun waved his sleeve, sweeping away the spiritual barrier around the stone platform with his spiritual energy. He glanced over and saw 3 thunderbolt characters faintly glowing on the scroll. Thunder Demon Body. This scroll turned out to be the Thunder Demon Body cultivated by Qin Ling, a thunder attribute divine art for refining the body. Mu Chun slightly closed his eyes and studied the Thunder Demon Body for a moment before shaking his head. He realized that although it was also a thunder attribute body refining divine art, It was far less profound than the Thunder God body. Moreover, the Thunder God body allowed for deeper refinement of the physical body, laying a solid foundation for practicing other, more powerful body-refining divine arts in the future. The Thunder Demon body, however, was nowhere near as capable in this regard. Mu Chen casually stored the scroll into his Qian Kuan bracelet and then looked through a few other scrolls. They were all Thunder attribute divine arts, but none of them could compare to his own eyes. After browsing for a while, he was somewhat disappointed and was about to leave when his gaze suddenly shifted. His eyes landed on a stone platform beside him, where a gray bamboo slip lay. On the slip, faint thunderbolt patterns could be seen, but its gray color made it seem unremarkable. Still, by instinct, Mu Chen extended his hand, drew the bamboo slip into his grasp, and clenched it. Spiritual energy surged into it, extracting the hidden information. Heart Demon Thunder Lotus. Made using Netherworld Heart Demon Thunder, combined with a special refining method. After a moment, Mu Chen opened his half-closed eyes, a look of surprise flashing across them. What he found recorded in the bamboo slip was not an ordinary divine art, but a refining method for something called the Heart Demon Thunder Lotus. The so-called Heart Demon Thunder Lotus was somewhat like an explosive artifact, but it was clearly a one-time use item. Moreover, it required Netherworld Heart Demon Thunder as its material. Despite the stringent refining requirements, its power was immense. It was said that if detonated, even a 5th-grade Supreme would have to avoid its wrath. And that was just the power of one. If a large quantity could be refined, throwing dozens of them would likely force even a 5th-grade Supreme to flee in panic. I never expected the Thunder Demon sect to have such a treasure. Mu Chen's eyes were filled with astonishment. If what was written was true, the Thunder Demon sect had control over a powerful weapon. But why hadn't they used it? A fragrant breeze swept in from behind, and Nine Nether approached. Upon seeing her, Mu Chen handed her the bamboo slip and voiced his doubts. So it's the Heart Demon Thunder Lotus. Nine Nether seemed to recognize the dangerous weapon's reputation. Her delicate face changed slightly, and she furrowed her brows. I'm afraid it's not that Qin Tian gang doesn't want to use it, but rather they haven't refined it yet. Not refined yet. Mu Chen was taken aback. There was a Thunder Demon Abyss in Thunder Demon Mountain, deep within which the Earth Demon Lightning was born. Earth Demon Lightning was the breeding ground for Netherworld Heart Demon Thunder. Had the Thunder Demon sect not found it after all these years? Don't think that Netherworld Heart Demon Thunder is common. Nine Nether gently shook her head. It's a type of divine thunder that can rival undying fire in power. Its destructive force is far greater than Black God Lightning. So, it's not impossible for the Thunder Demon sect to not have found it. Mu Chen clicked his tongue. Although he knew how rare Netherworld Heart Demon Thunder was, he hadn't expected it to be this scarce. Since we now occupy the Thunder Demon sect, we can take some time to rest. We'll go to the Thunder Demon Abyss later. Nine Nether's eyes shimmered as she mused. Mu Chen nodded. Their reason for attacking the Thunder Demon sect, apart from the supreme spiritual liquid, was undoubtedly the Thunder Demon Abyss within. As they stepped outside, Tang Bing, with a flushed face, greeted them eagerly. Her eyes sparkled with excitement, revealing her satisfaction with the results of their efforts. Sister Nine Nether, roughly calculated, there should be about 130,000 drops of supreme spiritual liquid here, and several other divine artifacts, divine arts, and so on. If we convert everything into supreme spiritual liquid, it's probably around 60,000 to 70,000 drops. Hearing Tang Bing's report, even Mu Chen couldn't help but click his tongue. The Nine Nether Palace typically only gathered about 10,000 drops of supreme spiritual liquid per year. But now, the Thunder Demon sect storage contained 130,000 drops. This haul could make the Nine Nether Palace immensely resource-rich in no time. Nine Nether couldn't help but chuckle. The Nine Nether's palace had been struggling to sustain itself, relying entirely on the supreme spiritual liquid that Mu Chen had provided. But now, with this immense wealth in hand, their treasury was finally replenished. Gather everything and have people take stock. We'll be stationed here for now, Nine Nether instructed. Understood. Tang Bing responded with a bright smile. Seeing this, Nine Nether playfully flicked Tang Bing's smooth forehead with her slender jade-like fingers. Then, She and Mu Chun left the spirit treasure vault, made a brief assessment of their surroundings, and headed straight toward the depths of the Thunder Devil sect. They could sense a violent surge of thunderous energy emanating from deep within. ####the depths of the Thunder Devil sect. Mu Chun and 9 Nether appeared in the sky, their gazes fixed on the land below. There, a massive chasm split through the mountain range, nearly 1,000 feet wide, and so dark it seemed bottomless. A constant rumbling of thunder echoed from its depths, making the very ground tremble. An unusual thunderous force pulsed outward, radiating from the abyss. This was their destination, the Thunder Demon Abyss. #### Thunder Demon Abyss. Suspended in midair, Mu Chun and 9 Nether peered down into the endless, pitch-black abyss. It coiled and twisted like a dormant, subterranean dragon, exuding an eerie and oppressive presence. Boom! A deep, resounding thunderclap erupted from the depths, sending tremors rippling through the land. "So this is the Thunder Demon Abyss," 9 Nether said, her strikingly cold face growing solemn. "Within this abyss lies the Earth Demon Lightning. This type of thunder is quite unique. Though it is thunder, it shares a deep connection with the Earth. Once activated, it can easily shatter the ground, unleashing devastation akin to a massive earthquake." Mu Chun nodded. Having cultivated the Thunder God body and undergone intense training in the Thunder domain of the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy, he was highly attuned to the power of thunder. He could already sense the terrifying energy condensed within the abyss. However, while the Earth Demon Lightning was formidable, it was still inferior to the Undying Fire. If he attempted to merge it with his spiritual energy, the Undying Fire would inevitably incinerate it completely. What he truly needed was a force powerful enough to rival the Undying Fire. And the Earth Demon Lightning was not enough. His real target lay deeper within, the Netherworld Heart Demon Lightning. "Even if we manage to find the Netherworld Heart Demon Lightning, fusing with it will be no simple task," Mu Chun murmured. Back when he had merged with the Undying Fire, it had nearly cost him everything. Attempting to merge with this even more dangerous lightning would be exponentially more difficult and infinitely more perilous. But if you succeed, your spiritual energy will gain both thunder and fire attributes. Such power would be beyond what ordinary spiritual energy can achieve, 9 Nether said with a smile. "Of course, raw power isn't simply about accumulating more attributes," she continued. "Take the Flame Emperor of the Endless Fire Territory, for example. When it comes to mastering fire, no one in the Great Thousand Worlds can surpass him. He is the true Emperor of Flames, capable of commanding all fire under the heavens with absolute control. So focusing on a single path can be more formidable?" Mu Chun pondered. The Flame Emperor had clearly cultivated the path of fire to its ultimate peak. At his level, other types of power likely held little temptation for him. "Not necessarily," 9 Nether said, shaking her head. "The mysteries of this world are infinite. No single path is the strongest. The martial ancestor of the martial realm, for instance, possesses spiritual energy with multiple attributes. Not only does he master thunder and fire, but when he invaded the Ice Spirit clan, he displayed an unparalleled control over ice. So much so that even the Ice Spirit clan, an ancient race renowned for their ice abilities, was unable to resist him." The martial ancestor? Mu Chun was momentarily taken aback. His spiritual energy carries so many different attributes. He recalled Lin Jing, whom he had met in the Merchant Continent. If he remembered correctly, the martial ancestor was her father. It is said that this is due to the unique nature of the lower dimension where he once resided, 9 Nether explained. While the Great Thousand Worlds is a convergence of countless dimensions, some lower dimensions have their own remarkable strengths. Certain cultivation techniques developed there are anything but ordinary, even by the standards of the Great Thousand Worlds. She smiled slightly. "So, there is no absolute strongest cultivation path, only the one most suited to you. If you can find your own path, there's no reason you can't stand among the greatest in the future." Mu Chun nodded in understanding. Mu Chun gazed at the Thunder Demon Abyss with a hint of unease. Initially, he had high hopes, but after discovering that the Thunder Demon sect had been searching here for many years without finding the Netherworld Heart Demon Lightning, those expectations plummeted to their lowest point. It was impossible for the Thunder Demon sect to go through so much effort, and for him to have the good fortune of encountering the Netherworld Heart Demon, Lightning, so easily. Regardless, we still have to try, Nine Nether said. Chen nodded. He then exchanged a look with Nine Nether, and in an instant, the two transformed into streaks of light, plummeting swiftly toward the Thunder Demon abyss. The sound of wind howling filled the air as the darkness quickly engulfed them. Boom! A deep, rumbling thunder echoed from the depths of the darkness. Chen and Nine Nether were falling at an incredible speed. In just a few dozen breaths, they had descended tens of thousands of feet into the ground. Their descent began to slow as they sensed the increasing violence of the thunderous energy surrounding them. They stopped, and Chen flicked his fingers. Spiritual energy orbs floated upward from his fingertips, rapidly expanding and emitting a brilliant light that banished the darkness at the bottom of the Thunder Demon abyss. As the darkness receded, the surroundings became clearer. Chen's eyes narrowed as he gazed ahead. On the walls of the abyss, countless black holes, about 10 feet wide, were scattered. Within those black holes, gray-black thunderbolts slithered like serpents, a low thunder rumbling as the ground trembled. These gray-black thunderbolts were none other than the Earth Demon Lightning. Boom! The Earth Demon Lightning was spread throughout the abyss, sending violent shockwaves that distorted the space itself. When the spiritual energy orbs appeared, they seemed to sense the intruders, and countless bolts of thunder shot out from the black holes, surging toward Chen and Nine Nether. But neither of them panicked. Nine Nether raised her jade hand, and a fire shield formed from the purple flame enveloped them. The Earth Demon Lightning slammed into the shield, but it was burned into nothingness by the undying fire within. "Look below," Nine Nether said, unfazed by the thunder's attack, her slender finger pointing downward, her face serious. Chen looked down, snapping his fingers. A spiritual energy orb shot deep into the dark abyss, exploding into countless points of light, illuminating the area below. Hiss! When Chen saw the scene below, he couldn't help but gasp. In the depths of the darkness, the gray-black thunder had formed a sea of thunder, spreading across the bottom of the Thunder Demon abyss. The eerie, dark color resembled a passage to another world, sending a chill down his spine. This sea of thunder was entirely composed of the Earth Demon Lightning. No wonder the Thunder Demon sect has searched for so many years, but still hasn't found the Netherworld Heart Demon Lightning. Chen sighed. Who could have imagined that the Earth Demon Lightning at the depths of the Thunder Demon abyss would be so vast and majestic? Even someone like Qin Tian Gang, with his 5th grade supreme power, would likely not dare to venture in recklessly. Nine Nether nodded lightly, and then frowned. It seems that if we want to find the Netherworld Heart Demon Lightning, we can only go deeper into this sea of Earth Demon Lightning. Chen continued to stare at the sea of thunder, slowly nodding. However, he did not immediately act. Instead, he focused on the Thunder Demon abyss, a look of contemplation flashing in his eyes. "Nine Nether, I plan to bring the 9 Nether guards here to cultivate," Chen suddenly said. Nine Nether raised an eyebrow in surprise. "This Thunder Demon abyss is filled with Earth Demon Lightning. While you and I are not afraid, it could be dangerous for the 9 Nether guards. I plan to teach them the Thunder God body," Chen said slowly. "The Thunder Demon abyss is the perfect place to cultivate the Thunder God body. If the 9 Nether guards can successfully master it, the battle willpower they forge will be beyond anything they've ever experienced." The Thunder God body had great benefits for physical cultivation. However, as Chen's strength grew, the increase in combat power from the Thunder God body became less significant. If he could have the 9 Nether guards successfully cultivate it, their overall strength would greatly improve. Moreover, from a long-term perspective, if one day he truly had to go to the Luo God clan, it would undoubtedly be impossible to go alone. He would need a force of his own. The 9 Nether's guards seemed like a good choice. Although they weren't at that level yet, they certainly had the potential. All right. After a brief pause, 9 Nether nodded slightly. She subtly understood Chen's thoughts. Although, in a way, the 9 Nether's guard could be considered her private army, she had no objections. The relationship between the two was clearly not something these matters could interfere with. With a decision made, Chen didn't waste time. He immediately soared out of the Thunder Demon abyss and summoned the 9 Nether's guard. bringing them all into the abyss. The strength of the 9 Nether's guard naturally couldn't compare to that of 9 Nether or Chen, allowing them to enter freely. They could only go as deep as 3,000 zhong before they couldn't proceed further. Chen saw this and instructed them to stop. With a wave of his sleeve, jade slips flew out from his robes, landing in the hands of every 9 Nether's guard warrior. This is the cultivation method for the thunder god body that I've practiced. From today on, you will cultivate here. Upon hearing Chen's calm voice, Shan and the others were momentarily stunned. They stared at him blankly. After a long pause, gratitude surged in their eyes. They clearly understood how valuable the thunder god body was. Such a body refinement technique would be incredibly hard to obtain in other forces, yet Chen had directly passed it on to them. Thank you, Commander. Shan and the others exchanged glances, then simultaneously knelt on one knee, their eyes filled with sincere respect and support. They didn't offer flattery, but their deep voices were filled with genuine gratitude. A warrior will die for a friend who understands him. With a commander like this, it was enough to fully devote themselves. Chen nodded gently, not saying much more. He simply waved his hand and, under the respectful gazes of the others, strode towards the deeper part of the Thunder Demon Abyss. What he had done was already enough to win the hearts of the 9 Nether's guard with the Thunder God body. To him, it was a deal well worth making. Now that the 9 Nether's guard were settled, he could relax and focus on searching for the Netherworld Heart Demon Lightning that he sought within the Thunder Demon Abyss. Have you found it? 9 Nether's eyes lit up with surprise when she heard Chen's question. She was also slightly incredulous. After all, this was something that even the Thunder Demon sect hadn't been able to achieve in all these years. Yet, Chen had detected the fluctuations of the Netherworld Heart Demon Lightning in just 4 days. It should be accurate, Chen replied, excitement in his voice. He looked down at his hand, his face turning serious. But this Netherworld Heart Demon Lightning is really domineering. Just the sound of the thunder has thrown my mind off balance. The Netherworld Heart Demon Lightning is one of the most bizarre types of heavenly thunder. Its power isn't as violent and explosive as other types of thunder. Instead of traditional lightning, it attacks through sound, 9 Nether explained. Thunder sound. Chen narrowed his eyes. The Netherworld Heart Demon Lightning can bypass most defenses. It originates from the heart and directly appears in the depths of the mind. The sound of the thunder can create distractions, stir up heart demons, and even make it impossible to control one's own spiritual power. It might even lead to a backlash and death, 9 Nether said, her delicate face showing some concern. It was clear that she was deeply wary of the Netherworld Heart Demon Lightning. This kind of attack was practically impossible to defend against. Chen was also shocked. If what she said was true, no matter how strong one's body cultivation became, it would still be impossible to defend against the sound of the Netherworld Heart Demon Lightning. With such a strange ability, no wonder it was on par with the Undying Fire. The more he thought about it, the more intrigued he became by the Netherworld Heart Demon Lightning. Let's go. I'd like to experience the legendary Netherworld Heart Demon Lightning, 9 Nether said with a smile. It was clear that she, too, was very interested in it. Chen nodded and then extended his hand towards 9 Nether as she prepared to move. 9 Nether gave him a puzzled look with her slender eyes, and then a playful smile appeared on her face. What's this? Chen, trying to take advantage of your sister? Chen twitched his mouth helplessly. That area's Earth Demon Lightning is incredibly violent. If you rush and recklessly, it will definitely attack. I can use the thunder control art to avoid it. Is that so? 9 Nether's rosy lips curled up slightly as she smiled. She extended her hand and placed it in Chen's palm. Then I'll trust you this once. Chen gently grasped the delicate, cool jade-like hand in his palm. With a firm pull, he wrapped his arm around the slender, soft-waisted woman before him, drawing her into his embrace. Instantly, the fragrance of her skin filled the air, warming his heart. As she collided into his chest, 9 Nether was momentarily caught off guard. But before she could struggle and reflex, Chen whispered in her ear, "Don't move." His voice fell, and spiritual energy surged from his body, enveloping both of them. With a light push off the ground, he transformed into a streak of light, charging toward the dark, bottomless Thunder Sea. The violent earth demon lightning raced past them on both sides, and even with Nine Nether's composure, her face flushed slightly from the heat pressing against her body. She shot Mu Chen an irritated glare. Mu Chen noticed her flustered gaze and could only give a dry laugh. He then sped up. As they cut through the pitch-black thunder sea, the violent earth demon lightning automatically parted before them, creating an unobstructed path. Thanks to his mastery of thunder control art, Mu Chen was able to move through the storm unhindered. However, despite the smooth journey, it wasn't until half a day later that Mu Chen gradually drew near to the area his senses had detected. Whoosh! The streak of light slowed, the spiritual energy around them fading, revealing their figures. Nine Nether pressed her delicate hand to Mu Chen's chest, pushing him back a step, then swiftly detached herself from his embrace. "You can't just use me and throw me away," Mu Chen grumbled indignantly. Nine Nether shot him a playful, yet exasperated, glance, ignoring his complaint. Her eyes turned serious as she gazed ahead. Mu Chen's teasing attitude faded as he followed her line of sight. In the distance, within the dark expanse, there appeared to be an empty zone. It seemed as though nothing was there, but it was clear that the earth demon lightning dared not approach. The blackness seemed like a void leading to a place of death, sending a chill down their spines. "I can sense the Netherworld heart demon lightning is here," Mu Chen murmured. Though the area was eerily silent, his body involuntarily tensed, instinctively preparing for the threat. His flesh recognized the danger and triggered his defense. Nine Nether nodded slightly. They exchanged a glance and both took a step forward, leaving the Thunder Sea and entering the ominous, empty zone. No sound echoed. They proceeded cautiously, and after a few minutes, Nine Nether's eyes suddenly narrowed. Before she could speak, an eerie, almost ghostly thunderous sound abruptly rang in their minds. Boom. Their bodies stiffened at once, especially Mu Chen, whose face twisted in pain as veins bulged across his forehead. His once handsome features now appeared grotesque. The strange thunderous sound resounded deep within his soul, and the vibrations nearly caused his spiritual energy to spiral out of control. Had his foundation not been strong, he might have lost control completely. But even so, he was paralyzed, as though his body had been robbed of control. As Mu Chen struggled to resist the thunderous force, Nine Nether, standing before him, began to relax. The purple flames of the undying fire swirled around her, enveloping her in a protective aura. Her jade-like hand, aflame with purple fire, grasped Mu Chen's hand, and the fire surged into his body. The crackling flames slowly drowned out the thunderous sound. Mu Chen's body gradually regained its strength. Nine Nether tilted her head slightly, revealing her sharp, pale face, and said, "Activate the undying fire for defense." Mu Chen nodded. Spiritual energy surged from within as the supreme sea churned, and the undying fire seeped out. While his fire wasn't as powerful as Nine Nether's, it was enough to protect his body. They continued their cautious march forward. With each step they took, a thunderous sound would ring in their minds. But with their defenses in place, and the power of the undying fire, they moved forward, albeit slowly. Mu Chen silently counted in his mind. By the time he reached the 1,000th thunderous sound, he felt Nine Nether halt. Ahead of them lay an extremely dark expanse, yet within the gloom, peculiar glimmers of light flickered faintly, seemingly a dim, grayish radiance. In that gray light, it seemed as if nothing existed, but Mu Chen could feel a chilling wave of energy emanating from it. There was something hidden there, for sure. However, his eyes seemed unable to see it. The Netherworld heart demon lightning is formless and intangible. Nine Nether's voice was soft, but her body had tensed. The undying fire blazed fiercely around her. She stared at the dim space, her voice growing colder. "The Netherworld heart demon lightning is right in front of you." Mu Chen's pupils contracted. He stared intently at the area, his eyes flaring with purple flame. Then, the space within the gray light seemed to distort, and in the faint glow, he saw a gigantic, invisible serpent, its massive form coiled ominously. The cold, emotionless snake eyes locked onto him, sending a chill down his spine. Hiss hiss. The serpent slowly flicked its tongue, and a strange sound, like the lullaby of death itself, echoed through the air. Is this the Netherworld Heart Demon Lightning? Chen inhaled sharply. He hadn't expected the Netherworld Heart Demon Lightning to take the form of a serpent. It seemed formidable indeed. He wondered whether he and Nine Nether could subdue it together. As Chen fixed his gaze on the formless Netherworld Heart Demon Lightning, his eyes suddenly shifted. He looked at the back of the serpent. There, the gray light swirled, revealing a broken stone tablet, flickering faintly. "What is that?" Chen whispered to Nine Nether. Nine Nether's beautiful eyes followed his gaze. Her slender brows furrowed slightly as she focused. On the broken stone tablet, light surged, and ancient characters began to gradually emerge. "Is that the Heart Demon Sutra?" Nine Nether carefully examined the ancient characters, and after a moment, her eyes widened in shock. "Wait, this looks like the Supreme Heart Demon Sutra." Supreme Heart Demon Sutra? Chen was taken aback. What an imposing name. But what exactly was it? In ancient times, there was a terrifying demon known as the Heart Demon Thunder Emperor. He once rampaged through the Great Thousand Worlds, gaining great fame. During the Great Calamity in the Thousand Worlds, it is said that a powerful being from an alien race perished at his hands. However, the Heart Demon Thunder Emperor also vanished during that catastrophe. Who would have thought we would encounter the Supreme Heart Demon Sutra here? Nine Nether said in surprise. No wonder the Netherworld Heart Demon Lightning is here. This was the Heart Demon Thunder Emperor's signature move. Oh, could this be the place where the Heart Demon Thunder Emperor perished? Chen asked, surprised. I don't know. Nine Nether replied, shaking her head. She stared at the broken stone tablet, noticing that the words Supreme Heart Demon Sutra appeared incomplete. Once we deal with the Netherworld Heart Demon Lightning Serpent, we'll have the answer. Nine Nether's jade-like hand clenched slowly. Chen nodded slightly. His eyes remained fixed on the gigantic, formless serpent. His expression grew colder with each passing moment. He had worked so hard to find this place, and no matter what, he was determined to claim the Netherworld Heart Demon Lightning today. In the dark expanse, the formless serpent lay quietly coiled, its cold, emotionless eyes sending a shiver down one's spine. Unlike most violent lightning, this Netherworld Heart Demon Lightning seemed to exude an eerie, chilling aura. Chen and Nine Nether both wore solemn expressions, their gazes filled with caution. Even Nine Nether could feel the overwhelming danger emanating from the serpent. This creature's power is probably on par with a 5th grade supreme. But fortunately, it only has form and no intelligence, so we still have a chance, Nine Nether whispered. Chen nodded. While the formless serpent looked terrifying, its snake eyes lacked the glint of intelligence, only the most primal ruthlessness. However, in terms of danger, it was probably even more formidable than Qin Tiangang, the leader of the Thunder Devil sect. He exhaled slowly, suppressing the initial shock he felt. He had encountered a similar thunder-powered anomaly before, in the last chamber of the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. That creature was even more powerful than this formless serpent. After all, it had posed a challenge even to the North Abyss Dragon Kuan, who was at the peak of the 9th grade supreme at the time. Though the formless serpent before them was a manifestation of the Netherworld Heart Demon Lightning, its power level was higher than that of the creatures in the Thunder domain. However, for various reasons, their powers were clearly not equal. Otherwise, Chen and Nine Nether would have been preparing to flee by now. We need to shatter its form in order to subdue it, Nine Nether said, her hand tightening into a fist. This level of confrontation inevitably requires the power of Nine Nether, but Chen's 2nd grade supreme power seems almost negligible in comparison. Be careful, Chen nodded, not overcomplicating things. At this moment, recklessly joining the fight might instead become a burden for Nine Nether. Nine Nether nodded slightly. She said nothing more and, with a gentle push of her jade foot, shot forward. A surge of purple flames erupted from her body, instantly causing the temperature in the surrounding vacuum to spike. SSS. 2 large, elegant black wings unfurled from Nine Nether's back. She clenched her delicate hand, and feathers began to materialize in her palm, eventually transforming into a slender feathered spear, purple flames swirling along its shaft. SSS. As Nine Nether channeled her spiritual power, the invisible thunder python sensed the danger. It flicked its tongue, its cold eyes locking onto her. With a flap of her wings, Nine Nether's figure vanished like a ghost, appearing above the thunder python in an instant. She then thrust her spear, unleashing a flurry of spear beams, each one covered in purple flames. The destructive power was terrifying. Hiss! The thunder python suddenly raised its head, its monstrous snake mouth opening wide. However, the sound that came from it was not the usual hiss of a serpent, but a shrill, ghostly, thunderous shriek. The thunder sound spread, and as the spear beams collided with the thunder, they dissipated with a series of poof, poof sounds. Nine Nether's delicate body shuddered slightly. It was clear that the Netherworld heart demon lightning's thunder had once again penetrated her body, but with the undying fire protecting her, she could still resist it. Boom! A massive tail suddenly descended from the sky, moving as fast as lightning, aimed directly at Nine Nether's head. Her huge wings crossed in front of her to protect herself like a shield. Bang! The snake's tail struck the wings with immense force, and the accompanying thunderous sound exploded outward. Nine Nether's body was sent flying, but she quickly stabilized herself by flapping her wings. Hiss! The thunder python had clearly marked Nine Nether as the intruder. It immediately began to launch a relentless assault, its ferocious mouth spitting sharp, thunderous sounds, continuously attacking Nine Nether. Faced with the thunder python's unending onslaught, Nine Nether found herself on the defensive, with signs that she was being overwhelmed. Outside the battle, Chen observed the scene, his face growing grim. He hadn't expected the thunder python to be this powerful, so much so that even Nine Nether was being forced into a disadvantage. We must deal with it quickly. If this drags on, Nine Nether might not be able to hold on, Chen thought, his eyes flickering with intensity. The thunder python was formed from Netherworld heart demon lightning, and with the endless power of thunder here, if the battle continued too long, Nine Nether would eventually be worn down. However, Chen couldn't act carelessly, as doing so might attract the thunder python's furious attacks, making the situation even worse. Furrowing his brow, Chen cautiously moved closer to the battlefield, sensing the thunder python's attack range. Moments later, he appeared in a different part of the vacuum and took a step forward. Hiss! As soon as his foot touched the ground, the shrill, thunderous sound resonated in his soul, and his body froze. Veins bulged on his face as if he were about to explode. Violet flames surged in his eyes, the undying fire activating to resist the thunder. However, before he could even relax, the thunderous sound struck again. This was because he had entered the thunder python's attack range, and was now being affected. Chen slowly closed his eyes. He needed to find a way to deal with the Netherworld heart demon lightning. If he didn't, he wouldn't be able to help Nine Nether at all. Hiss hiss. Thunder God body. His body radiated with a brilliant lightning aura, but soon, he realized that the Thunder God body had little effect in defending against the Netherworld heart demon lightning. He quickly activated the Thunder Control Art, but its effectiveness was minimal as well. The violent thunder was far beyond the strength of the Earth demon lightning he had faced before, and his Thunder Control Art couldn't control it. Chen employed various methods, but none of them yielded significant results. Chen sat cross-legged in the void, his face rapidly turning pale. The increasingly urgent thunderous sound from within his body caused him to feel as though he was reaching his limit. No, I can't give up. Chen gritted his teeth. Nine Nether was struggling in battle, and if he were to give up now, how could he face her resolve? Chen took a deep breath, channeling his spiritual energy as he summoned the undying fire to resist with all his might. His gaze flickered with intense focus. The invisible thunder python was incredibly powerful. From the current battle between Nine Nether and it seemed highly unlikely that they could shatter its form. Since they couldn't disperse its form and still needed to deal with it, there was only one solution: sealing it away. Sealing? Chen's mind stirred. If they were to seal it, the page of immortality within his body seemed to be the best choice. After all, even someone as powerful as Mandala would need to rely on something like it. With this thought in mind, Chen immediately acted without hesitation. His hands came together, and he quickly formed a strange seal. Buzz! From the vast and boundless ocean of spiritual energy in the Supreme Sea, a faint, eerie glow suddenly shot out, distorting the space as it appeared before Mu Chen. His fingertip then pointed sharply forward. A mysterious dark purple light immediately spread from the page of immortality, and as the light surged, a beautiful, yet almost seductive mandala flower slowly began to rise. Mu Chen took a deep breath, his spiritual energy pouring out without reservation. It all flowed into the mesmerizing mandala flower. Buzz, buzz. As Mu Chen infused his spiritual energy, the mandala flower's beautiful petals began to slowly bloom, revealing ancient and mysterious patterns on them. Boom. At the same time, an ear-piercing ghostly screech of thunder rang out from the distant battlefield. The thunderous sound was far more violent than before. Bang! Bang! As the thunderous sound passed, the space itself began to warp. The blazing purple flames pouring out from Nine Nether's body were suddenly suppressed, retreating step by step as her form was sent flying back thousands of feet. Damn it! Nine Nether gritted her silver teeth, unable to stop herself from cursing. She hadn't expected the invisible thunder python to be this powerful. Coupled with the terrain, it became even more formidable. After the recent exchange, Nine Nether realized that, with just herself, she likely wouldn't be able to suppress this Netherworld heart demon thunder. It seems I'll have to retreat for now and seek help from a strong ally in the Great Luo Heaven domain. A thought flashed through Nine Nether's mind, but she didn't have many strong allies in the Great Luo Heaven domain, and with the Heavenly Vulture Emperor focusing on the conquest war, she doubted he'd have the time to help her. Nine Nether, retreat. Just as Nine Nether's mind grew anxious, a sudden, commanding shout rang out from behind her. It was Mu Chen's voice. Hearing Mu Chen's shout, Nine Nether froze for a moment. Although she didn't understand why Mu Chen would charge into this level of battle, she trusted him. Without hesitation, she flapped her wings and retreated quickly. At the same time, a huge mandala flower, glowing with dark purple light, flew over her head, then hovered above the invisible thunder python. The mandala flower slowly tilted, its center aligned with the invisible thunder python below. Sizzle, sizzle. As the mandala flower tilted downward, the usually emotionless thunder python suddenly let out a sharp, irritated screech. The violent thunderous sound surged toward the mandala flower. Boom. However, when the thunderous sound struck the dark purple light surrounding the mandala flower, it suddenly dissolved. Whoosh! The alluring petals of the flower unfolded, and the dark purple light shot down like a beam, enveloping the invisible thunder python within. Then, a strange force erupted, and the invisible thunder python began to be pulled inch by inch toward the mandala flower. Boom! Boom! In that instant, the thunder python seemed to sense the danger and struggled violently. A terrifying burst of Netherworld heart demon thunder erupted, distorting the space around it. Seeing this scene, Mu Chen's expression changed dramatically. This was his last resort. If even the page of immortality couldn't seal the Netherworld heart demon lightning, then he would truly have no choice but to give up. However, with his current immense spiritual power, he could only push the power of the mandala flower to this extent. Damn it! Mu Chen gritted his teeth and cursed. But just as he was at his wit's end, a cold jade-like hand suddenly landed on his back. A crisp voice from Nine Nether rang out. Use my spiritual energy. Boom. As her voice fell, Mu Chen's body trembled violently, and a vast and mighty surge of spiritual energy, like a flood, poured endlessly into his body.